Okay, this is the last class for the Dragonfly project, and I just wanted to show you this sample once again. You see in the background, what I've done is I've used watercolor paint, and I've done a lot of overlapping and used light, medium, and darks, yellows and green. So you're gonna need a cup of water. You're gonna use a nice brush. Let's see, you can use this kind of medium-sized brush. Don't worry, that's clean. It's just the dye is dyed the bristles of this particular brush. And this is a filbert. You can see the shape of it. It's flatter than the other brushes that I've used, and that would be to get a nice flat stroke for my background. So I'm gonna use a mixed media 9x12 sheet of paper, blank, and that will be used for the background. So we finished coloring our dragonfly, and now what we're gonna do is, if you have this glitter glue, and I love this, it's opalescent, it's very fine, and what you're gonna do is after you've done all the coloring, you're gonna just apply, kind of just make a strip in the middle of the wing, and just use a finger, a clean finger, and kind of wipe that out and spread it from top to bottom of your wings. And the idea is not to saturate it, but just add a little hint of the glistening glitter. So as you can see, I'm not adding a lot. Don't overdo it, you don't want to. And then add your glitter on the other side as well, and then just rub it in. And spread it around. And that's all you need, just a hint of the glitter. So you're also gonna need a pair of scissors, and I thought we could also do a little bit of collage. And I'm using some tissue papers. So I had like a green, pink, or yellow. You can use other colors if you'd like, to add perhaps some flowers to the background. And with the tissue paper, I'm using a small cup, and I am using, you can use Elmer's glue. Let me show you. You can use a little bit of Elmer's glue and water, and I just happen to have Mod Podge on hand, so I'm going to use the Mod Podge instead because I don't have the Elmer's nearby or on hand. So I'm just going to put that aside with my tissue paper, and I'm going to use the watercolor paints that I have been using, along with my filbert brush, and of course a rag that's reusable. You're going to use your scissors, and we're going to be cutting out our dragonfly. So when you cut it out, make sure that you cut along the black outline, the contour line that wraps all the way around the outer part of your dragonfly. And you don't want to see any white sections after you've cut it out. So just be careful cutting out your dragonfly. And one thing you could do is to add the glitter after you've cut your dragonfly out, or just let it apply it before, and just be careful and watch where your hands are. You don't want to smudge it around or wipe it off. And it should dry rather quickly since we didn't add too much to the wings. And again, take your time, be patient when you're cutting out the dragonfly. You don't want to cut any parts off. especially you want to be careful around the antennae. They're so thin and narrow that it's very tricky to navigate, but it can be done. Okay, so now when you look at the dragonfly so far, I've really taken my time to cut along that black line for the contour, the outline, as I'm nearing completion. So if you do still see a little bit of the paper off the edges, then just go back in and clean it up a little bit. See, my thumb is on the wing now because it's dried. So it doesn't take very long, especially if you don't use so much glitter. Okay, now I'm going to put the dragonfly aside, and I won't have him too far away from me because I want to get a sense of how I want to place the dragonfly on my background. Okay, all right, so now I'm done. So get your plain paper and just place your dragonfly on the paper. And as you can see, you can tilt the dragonfly in any direction you want. You could have the paper standing vertically, or you can place it horizontally on the paper and kind of tilt them off onto the side. So you really need to figure this out before you start doing your painting. So I'm going to have my paper, instead of horizontal, I'm going to have it vertical. And I'm going to put my my dragonfly to the side, and then get your paints ready. I had my brush here a second ago. There it is. Okay. And so decide on the colors that you want to use for your background. Like I said again, with this one, I used greens and yellows. So you want to start from the bottom, choose your color, and you could do the range of light and dark in your palette. Make sure that you've got paper underneath so you don't get it onto your surface. And then this side, get my water. Okay, so I'm going to start with the brightest color I have, wet your paint with the water, and then start from the bottom. And you can just take your line going from bottom to the top of your paper. And you can overlap, so it crosses over and can go in the other direction. Now you can kind of turn your brush to get a much thinner tip at the top. So keep that in mind about, you know, having it wider at the bottom, and then kind of turn and twist your brush so that it starts to get thinner at the top of the paper. And this paper again is mixed media. I love using mixed media. It's such a versatile And you can even do shorter ones. It's such a versatile paper and really can take a beating with gluing on papers for collage, adding water to it. And you can have a range of light, medium, and dark yellows. Also, depending on how much water you put on your brush. Now I'm going to go into a lighter yellow on my palette. Get it nice and wet, and you can just kind of overlap, and as you can see, it's not smearing. You can even go from the side and take that going right off to the edge. And you can kind of move it, give it some movement as you're applying your paint strokes on your paper. And you could just have some narrower, so you could just have your brush sideways. And add as many as you want. Really fill up your paper. I'm going to go back to the darker. Going back in with the lighter. Okay, so I think I have a nice range of yellows for my background. Now I'm going to switch to, as you can see, I've got a nice range of greens, blue-green, and I can start with, you can start darker and then work your way into a lighter value, or you can start bright. I'm going to go in with this kind of yellow-green. And the paper absorbs the paint so quickly. It's really terrific. Don't forget, you're going to be overlapping. You don't want to just have straight lines to your paper. I'm going to go in with a darker color now. After rinsing my brush, make sure that you've got a clean brush every time you apply a new color. And I'm overlapping a lot of the yellows. Hi, Chip. I have a visitor. Okay, so what you can do then is let this dry, and if you wanted to have some fun and make this, no, don't jump up, and wanted to add the tissue paper onto your background, remember we mixed a tiny bit of you could use Elmer's glue, I used Mod Podge with some water, and you can put your background to the side and along with your Dragonfly, and then take out, you can put your paints to the side also, and you can take out your tissue paper. Now, the French have a word for gluing. It is collage. And this word is now widely used to designate the art of craft, of making designs and pictures by gluing bits of cut or torn paper to a background. So you could add just some flowers to the background if you wanted to and make it very colorful. I'm going to use a smaller pair of scissors. And then if you wanted to make multiple shapes, you're going to just fold them over, and you can fold a few times. I'm just going to do some circles. So I'm going to, after I've folded it over, from the fold, I'm going to go up and I'm going to create my circle, but then I'm going to cut off, and I'm going to make my circle all the way around because I don't want the fold to be attached. I want these all to be separate. So after I've cut out the tissue paper, I have several, because I've folded it a few times, several of these kind of almost like teardrop shapes that if I wanted to add some color to my background, I have quite a few here, you could even cut them again and make some of them smaller. And so this should be dry. It dries very quickly. And what I'm going to do is just show you an example. I'm going to use a smaller brush. I don't need a big brush. And I'm going to use that brush to mix the Mod Podge or the glue to the water and mix it so it's nice and even. And then what you can do after you've mixed it nicely is you can just kind of add a droplet. And just be careful. You want your fingers to be dry when you pick up your tissue, and then just apply it. And you can just gently kind of go over it again, like you see here. And you could do it in random spaces. You could add some smaller leaf shapes, as you can see. Now, part of the dragonfly will cover it up, so I'm not going to place this on the background that's wet, but I want to kind of get a sense of where I'm going to be placing the rest of my dots before I glue on my dragonfly. So definitely I can add some of these to the top of my paper. And you want to make sure that these are completely dry and that your fingers are dry while you're applying this. And you can just kind of randomly spread them around, have some balance, and just kind of tap it with the wet glue liquid that you've made up, and then just kind of add these to your background, and it gives it a nice element to your design. And it's nice to mix the media so that you have not just paint, but your tissue. It could be torn printed paper. You could color some newsprint and add it. Now, you don't have to do the entire background with all these, but you have a few, and you can kind of just randomly place them throughout your background. And you can do any color you want. Okay. And then when you're done adding your tissue, now you can do the other colors. I had green, I had yellow. I might just stick with the pink because I'm liking how it looks right now. I think it's really pretty. Very festive. Okay. I have a few more. Maybe I'll have them right next to each other. These are sticking together. The tissue paper is very fine, so you want to make sure that you don't have more than one. You have to pick it up and make sure this is, one single piece, not a stack of pieces. And if your fingers get slightly wet, just dry them with the rag that you were using for your watercolor. These are sticking, see? So just be careful. And that might be right under the dragonfly. That's okay. See if I can add any more over here. And then when you're done, kind of look at it, step back, see how you like it. And then you can glue your dragonfly on. Now for the glue that I'm going to be using to add to the dragonfly now, what you'll need to do is make sure that this is dry before you glue your dragonfly on. I'm not going to use these pieces, okay? And I'm just going to set this aside, and then I'm going to add Elmer's glue to the back of my dragonfly. Not Elmer's, sorry. I'm going to use a glue stick. Okay, here's the glue stick. So I'm just using this. And I'm going to start from the top. Make sure you get those antennae. And then I'm just rubbing all of my glue onto the back of my dragonfly. Make sure you get every section of your dragonfly glued. And then again, start looking to see how you want to make the placement of your dragonfly. And it's okay if the wings tip off the edge of the paper. I kind of like that look. And then just gently press down with your clean fingers, dry fingers. Obviously, I didn't need to do the tip of this wing. You could also put something that's heavy on it, maybe another piece of paper, but you want to be careful. You don't want any of the glue exposed so that it'll lift it and tear your dragonfly off the paper. So you have to keep pressing, kind of get it onto your background. You may have to add a little bit more glue to some of the edges, lift it up, and then just press. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little bit more. So I'm going to put something that's going to sit on it to make it dry flat. Okay, so I hope you have a fantastic summer. Keep doing your art, challenge yourself, and I will see you again soon. Take care. Have a fantastic summer off. Bye-bye.